Hey, what's up everyone? Tim here from Everyday Tactical Vids, and today we're talking about this, which is the brand new Brush Wolf from Tops Knives. So this thing has been featured on Instagram and other social media platforms for a while now, but it's just been released as of the end of February 2021, and very cool looking knife. Obviously, it's gonna get some attention just by its profile, the shape, some of the features. So let's talk through the details, and then we're gonna put it through the paces and show you what it looks like in use. All right, so first off, your end-to-end length, 12.13 inches, your blade length is 6.5 inches, and your cutting edge is 6.25 inches. We do have green canvas micarta for the handles. It's got a bit of a brown tinge in my opinion, but they call it green canvas micarta. 1095 high carbon steel. It is Rockwell hardness of 56 to 58. We're looking at 0.19 inches for your thickness. Your weight is 11.7 ounces without the sheath, and with the sheath, it is 17.7 ounces. Here's a quick look at the sheath. Honestly, I think one of the prettiest that Tops has ever put out. Just really nice looking leather sheath, leather dangler here. You got some snaps so you can pop these off quite easily, and then, put it over your belt and then snap them back on. Obviously, if you want to just, attach this to a pack, you can do that as well. Nice, rugged steel dangler there. There's your stitching on the back. And then it does come with some cordage, which you can use to wrap around your leg, or you can use this to run it through the large lanyard hole if you want to put a lanyard onto the knife. So a couple other features worth noting here. We do have a bow drill divot on both sides there, so you can use that obviously for friction fire. We also have a sawback, but it's just in the middle there. So, and it doesn't have the opposing teeth, which is kind of interesting. You can see I got a little bit of leftover wood from when I was using it. Not very large as far as the length of it, but enough to make notches. You can also hopefully see that right here, this has been flattened out. Yeah, it's a little bit different, like color here versus here. This is a 90-degree spine. So you can use it for scraping, and you can also use it for throwing sparks off your fire steel. All right, so when you pick up this knife, you're probably gonna start messing with the handle just because you'll sense immediately it's got a bunch of different ways you can hold it. So your standard hammer grip, like this, right, for doing your push cuts. You do have this nice big finger guard, so you can have your hand up here and then rest your thumb on the mild jimping, I would call it, to do some more of those push cuts. You can also choke back a little bit and do a 3-finger grip, or maybe even, if you want to put a lanyard on there, you can probably go back to 1-finger grip, but more like a 3-finger grip if you want to do some chopping with it like this. So lots of different ways to hold the handle. The other thing that's interesting is when you turn it upside down to use the sawback, my thumb just fits perfectly in there. So as far as like having good control while I'm using the sawback, that's perfect. That's exactly what I would want. The other thing that probably stands out is the sweep of the blade. So it's got that Nessmuck-Style. It's gonna give you more slicing ability than maybe something that's just got a, basically a flat edge and then maybe the little curve at the tip, but this one's definitely got a nice sweep to it. I want to show you real quick there. You can see Brush Wolf and you can see Houghton era. And this was actually designed by two brothers, Aaron and Nate Morgan. So as soon as I saw this knife, I thought I'd love to check that thing out. On the Tops website, they describe it as, kind of a multi-use knife, so you can use it for bushcraft, survival, and I think that's definitely true. Just looking at it, again, that sweeping edge, some light chopping. Obviously, you can do some batoning at 0.19 inches thick. It will beat up your baton if you keep hitting here, but that is what it is. But just, you can do some carving with it, since you can choke way up here, on the handle. You can do some of those nice little, some of the detail work. So yeah, as soon as I saw it, I was intrigued by it. Let's start putting this thing through the paces and see what we think about it. Fire steel test. Definitely works. All right, let's talk about the sawback a little bit here. So as you can see, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 teeth if you count the last one there. That's basically, goes back into the spine of the blade. So because of that, you're not going to get a huge length of pole where you're cutting, if it was twice as long or 3 times as long. The advantage of it not being as long is that it allows you to do other things with the spine of the blade, like have this 90-degree edge right here, and also if you have a sawback all the way out on the edge here. If you're batoning, you're definitely going to beat up your baton with the entire thing. So the smaller size does have an advantage. I would like to see maybe 2 more teeth. A little bit more, I think, would add a little bit more of an advantage to leveraging the Sawback. So here's a look at what I was able to do with the Sawback. Make a bunch of notches in 3 kind of large tent stakes. Little quick tip there is if you make tent stakes, try to round that top off like that, just cut away. It'll keep them from splitting when you're driving them into the ground. Anyhow, what I can tell you is that definitely works to make notches. Again, you know, a lot of people when they see that Sawback, they're like, I'm not gonna cut down a tree with it. You're right, you're not gonna cut down a tree with it. That's not what it's for. It's for making notches for traps and tent stakes and things like that. So one thing to keep in mind is that we'll show you what it looks like in use in a second, but you really want to bear down as far as holding the stick really solidly while you're doing that, just because it's catching, you know, to cut that wood out, and the natural tendency of the stick is to kind of roll back and forth. So if you really hold down tightly on the stick, keep your hand safe, but then bear down while you're using the Sawback, that should work nicely. So once again, 3 tent stakes, and then the notches using the Sawback. All right, so this is a piece of oak here. You can see I got some of the leftover wood there in the Sawback. Obviously this thing works. Again, not made for felling trees or doing tons of cutting. Bring your silky saw, bring your Baco Laplander, but for making notches for traps, tent stakes, or even notching a piece of wood so you can break it off nice and even. Yeah, this thing definitely, it functions. We'll do a little chopping now, and my grip is just a standard hammer grip right in the middle of the handle. So that works. Actually lock my finger in now and get a hammer grip, but kind of further up on the handle. So that's what that looks like. This is the same piece of oak too, so definitely a harder wood. All right, so what I want to do now is take these little branches off of this larger branch. Say you were building a shelter and you wanted to clear off little branches so you could use something as a ridge pole. This will be kind of that type of test. So for those cuts, I was basically holding like back here on the handle and letting it kind of move freely like this. Just gives me a little bit more chopping power. But obviously, you know, the thing works great doing little tasks like that as well. Here's a look at the knife in the sheath attached to my belt. Really like this dangler system. You can just snap it off and snap it on easily. Drawing the knife out like so, dropping it in, and then once it's in, just push it down and make sure it's got a little bit more snugness. If you want to reshape the leather, you can do that and make it even more snug or more loose depending on what you like for a setup. But I tied this around my this extra piece of cordage around my thigh. I normally don't do that, but just for kicks I wanted to try it. And I can tell you, this thing, like, I'm not concerned unless I go tumbling down a massive mountain. I don't think this thing is going to come out just as I'm walking or doing tasks around camp. Just to show you again some of that carving ability. It's definitely a large notch, but if you were, you know, trying to rig a bunch of things together, maybe you're going to lay a pole in like this, definitely quite doable with the brush wolf. Just a heads up about that 90-degree spine. So you can definitely rest your thumb there. Just be careful that your thumb doesn't slip off like that, because it could definitely get hacked up. I definitely encourage you to hold it like this, you know, put your thumb right on the jimping. We'll do a little scraping now with that 90-degree spine. Again, this is oak, so definitely a hardwood. But it will definitely scrape, as you can see. And there's actually a pile on the ground there as well. The sun is breaking through the trees here in New Hampshire this morning, and as that happens, let me wrap up and give you some thoughts on the brush wolf. Overall, an absolute win. I've used lots of different tops knives over lots of different years. Different knives and tools have different functionality, right? So the little bugger is going to be great for tiny little tasks. The Alchete is going to be great for bigger chopping tasks. I feel like this is kind of a jack of all trades that offers you a lot of different functionality. When I first started using this knife, I actually thought of the movie Elf. If you guys have seen that movie, Will Ferrell is down in the mailroom in one scene, and he gets his face stuck up against the suction of those things that you can basically send mail throughout the building, and he goes, "Oh, sucky." And this thing, as soon as I started using it, I was like, oh, slicey. I mean, it's very slicey. You know, when you basically hold it like this, but loosen up maybe your back two fingers, this thing is definitely gonna slice and chop nicely. It's not big enough to be a machete. We're gonna be hacking through the underbrush of the jungle, but it is very slicey because of that Nessmuck-Style blade. So I just think that's a win. I like the way it functions. I was impressed with the Sawback. I thought, you know, yeah, maybe it'll give me a little bit of additional help with notches, but it worked quite well. As long as you hold down on that piece of wood while you're cranking, it works really nicely. The way the tip is set up in line with the handle, certainly that's going to offer you functionality as well. Kind of a straight line as opposed to it being way off center. That for some people that's a huge deal. For me, it's not a huge deal, but it's an added bonus. 90-degree spine, so you can throw sparks. That's definitely a win. That is a constant discussion people have about tops knives. Why don't they put 90-degree spines on it? I made a video on that. You can check that out. I'll put that at the end of this video. I do like the different kind of ways you can grab the handle. Let me talk about two possible changes I would make. First, as I mentioned, I would add an extra like 1 or 2 saw teeth up there. The other thing is I'd like to thicken up the handle a little bit. Small, medium to large size hands, fine. Large size, I think it's gonna work for you, but you wanna make sure that you've landed your hand in the right spot before you start bearing down. So I'd like to just see a little more thickness this way and this way with the handle. I personally like a very neutral handle. I don't like a lot of contours and cutouts. This one offers a little bit more contouring, but I like what they've done with that, so I think that's a win. I just like to see it a little chunkier. Like this, the Steel Eagle series, to me is maybe a tiny bit too big, but that's more the size I want for a knife. But that being said, it's not like this thing was impossible to use by any means, especially in the hammer grip. I felt like it was really nice as far as how it functioned. I just think the overall look is really sweet too. The sheath is, like I said, probably one of the nicest, if not the nicest leather sheath I've seen from tops over the years. I tend toward liking Kydex, but with this style knife, I think it's definitely a win to have a leather sheath. Nice big lanyard hole, I mentioned that before. I don't run a lanyard a ton on knives unless it's a bigger chopper, so that's my personal preference. But overall, definitely a win. You know, I think the look, the style, the functionality, this thing just offers a lot for knives. So let's hear your thoughts on the Brush Wolf. If you own one, I'd love to hear. Right now, they're running at about $185 on the Tops website. This is end of March 2021. Tops knives are not super cheap. You know, you're paying almost 200 bucks for this knife, but you're getting a lifelong knife. I really think that's going to be the case. So let's hear your thoughts now on the Brush Wolf. You've seen it in use in this video. Maybe you've seen other videos about it. You've probably seen pictures of it. Give us some feedback, and I'll just let you know that Tops and the designers of the Brush Wolf are definitely going to be interested to hear what your feedback is. So let's get that conversation started in the comment section. All right, guys, once again, we've been talking about the Tops Brush Wolf. Thanks as always for checking out the videos here on YouTube. Please subscribe to Everyday Tactical Vids if you haven't done so already. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, check us out on Instagram, Tumblr, and Vero as well. More videos coming soon. Take care.